Recently, I stumbled across this Pac-Man device for a couple of bucks in a thrift store. I got curious about it, picked it up, and now, here we are. I figured it would be total junk, but maybe it isn't. Let's talk about this thing. If you're just a general consumer, I'll assume you've moved on from even caring about these kinds of devices years ago. So I'm going to approach this review figuring that you're a collector of some kind, a savvy video game archivist looking for interesting gadgets that look neat, or have exclusive content or features. Well, this 12-in-1 Pac-Man plug-and-play from 2012 isn't going to blow you away with its visuals or sound. As you can see, it features a composite connection with mono audio. I suppose you could try using some expensive scalers to get a better image out of this thing, but that's honestly overkill and you know it. So you won't be buying one of these for HD retro gaming. Now it's possible you're hardcore and still game on a CRT, in which case you might still be on board. But no, if you're wanting one of these at this point, it's probably for the Pac-Man shape of the unit itself, since it'll be something interesting to have on display in your game room. But there are a lot of Pac-Man shaped things out there that you could buy, so who is this device for exactly, especially now, over a decade after its original release? I don't want to imply that this device is obsolete, however, despite being 12 years old at the time of this video. It is still available at some retailers and has been repackaged several times over the years, including in a special gold color for Pac-Man's 35th anniversary in 2015, and PAL regions even got a blinky version of the device, which to me is honestly more appealing from a collector's perspective. So let's look at this thing. It's got a loose floppy joystick here. I don't know if it comes that way or if this is wear and tear after years of use. Like I said, I did pick it up at a thrift store. Power switch up top, two face buttons in the NES style of B then A, and then underneath you just pop off this whole piece to reveal a battery compartment that requires 4 AA batteries. You can also tuck the TV cable neatly into here when you want to display this on a shelf. The 12 games included with this system are Pac-Man, Super Pac-Man, Pac-Man 256, which isn't what you think, but more on that in a minute, Pac-and-Pal, Pac-Man Plus, and then because you can't just put Pac-Man games on the Pac-Man handheld, you also get Mappy, New Rally X, Dig Dug, Xevious, Bosconian, Galaga, and Galaxian. 12 games is more than I was expecting, honestly, but I would have been fine with all Pac-Mans and nothing else. The menu screen is nicely programmed, showing off the marquee logos of all 12 games, with game-specific sprites highlighting your selection. That's way more production than I was expecting. The high score section must be saved on the chip inside because I've swapped the batteries out of this device on several occasions and the previous owner's best are still there. So that's pretty cool. Launching into a game will prompt you to press A for a one-player game or B for 2 players. Holding both buttons will bring you back to the menu. Unfortunately, that becomes a problem for a game like Xevious, which uses both buttons to fire your weapons. Should you want to hold the buttons down to fire both your weapons repeatedly, you will end up being asked if you're ready to go back to the menu a few seconds later. An additional menu button would have been nice to prevent this kind of situation, although I think Xevious is the only 2-button game in this collection. If you're looking for pixel-perfect emulation of your favorite Namco games, this is not the place. It's close, but it's not 100% accurate. The gameplay screens for all the games have been reprogrammed to be slightly wider, and with the score information off to the side to help fill the 4x3 display image completely. When you see this, you might think that these are the NES and Famicom versions of the games, as seen in the recent Namco Museum Archives releases on current-gen consoles. But no, these do appear to be the arcade versions, just slightly tweaked. There are no settings you can change, this is what you get, except for Xevious, which does mostly keep the aspect ratio of the original arcade game intact. Also, Dig Dug will scroll vertically as you move up and down throughout the level, which is a bit unnerving if you're used to how Dig Dug is supposed to play. Overall, the games themselves do seem to play fine, but if you're a stickler for accuracy, just know that these are slightly off. The floppy joystick is surprisingly responsive, however, and I never felt like I'd missed a turn in any of the Pac-Man games because of it. Holding the unit, though, isn't the most comfortable experience, but you figured that just by looking at the thing. And while the controls are fine, the whole device is very squeaky. The plastic housing is cheap, and so it's all moving and rubbing against its other pieces, and I can safely say you won't want to play this at night in a room with someone who goes to bed before you. Initially, my plan for the conclusion here was to point out which of the many Namco compilations featured this lineup of games, and then just steer you towards that. But of course, simply to infuriate me, there is no one Namco compilation that contains all these games. Seriously, there's been like 3 dozen Namco compilations, and this specific combination of games is not featured in a single one of them. I'm not even including Pac-Man 256 in this search, which is not the mobile game, but instead is an exclusive ROM hack that starts you on the 255th screen of the original Pac-Man so that you can experience the kill screen for yourself. But honest to God, there is not a single home console compilation that contains the 11 remaining games. You can find 10 of those 11 games here on the Nintendo Wii release, Namco Museum Mega Mix. But sorry, Pac-Man Plus fans, this device appears to be the only home release of that game that's available. It's not even on the Pac-Man Museum Plus collection, and Plus is right there in the name. It's a rights issue, I think, with Pac-Man Plus having been released by Bally, which is probably similar to the current rights and royalties situation with Miss Pac-Man, which is why that game isn't here at all. I don't know for sure, but that's probably the reason. If this was an inexpensive 720p device that doubles as a shelf collectible, I'd say yeah, go pick one of these up. The games are good, and it's the only place you can get all of these in one collection. But as a standard definition, mono audio, cheap plastic thing, you could probably live without Pac-Man Plus and pick up a Namco collection on your video game console of choice. So that's where I'm at with this thing. Someone giving it away? Sure, it'll look nice on a shelf. Sold at a steep discount? Okay, the games are fun and everything controls well. Anything more than that, though? No, there are much better ways to play these games, just not all in one convenient package, of course. I'm gonna hang on to mine because I have it. It's not worth a lot. I'm not gonna resell it or anything, but yeah, I mean, you know, it's not the prize of my collection or anything. I realize that's a dizzying mishmash of recommendations, but really at this point there are only specific use cases for a device like this, and it's all going to depend on your very specific needs as to if you want to grab one or not. Which again, you can still do, it's still being sold. I'll link to it in the description, go nuts.